Los Angeles calls itself a world-class city, but has the public transit of a small town and the traffic of a parking lot apocalypse. This is what happens when you design an entire metropolis around the assumption that everyone owns a car and enjoys sitting in it for 3 hours daily. The city sprawls across 500 square miles, with neighborhoods so disconnected that visiting your friend 10 miles away requires an expedition. The 405 freeway is 12 lanes wide and still moves at 5 miles per hour during rush hour. They spent $9 billion on a subway system that covers maybe 20% of the city, while people in the valley have exactly 0 rail options. Want to get from Pasadena to Santa Monica? That'll be 90 minutes and 3 transfers if the bus shows up. Downtown has billion-dollar skyscrapers, but sidewalks covered in tents because housing costs $700,000 for a one-bedroom teardown. The city demolished entire neighborhoods like Chavez Ravine for a baseball stadium, then wonders why there's a housing crisis. Venice Beach to LAX is 8 miles and takes 45 minutes in traffic. The solution? Build more highway lanes that fill up instantly. They widened the 405 for $1.6 billion, and travel times actually increased. LA proves you can have perfect weather year-round and still create urban hell. That's not a city, that's a 500 square mile strip mall with an ocean view.
Atlanta. Atlanta let highway engineers play Sim City with the demolition button, and now the city is a car-dependent wasteland cut into pieces by 18 lanes of concrete. The downtown connector slices through the heart of the city like a surgeon who gave up halfway through. Neighborhoods that were thriving got bulldozed in the 1960s for highways that created more traffic than they solved. Sweet Auburn, once the richest black business district in America, was destroyed for I-85. The city's solution to congestion is always the same: add more lanes. The I-285 perimeter is 16 lanes in places and still parking lots by 7 a.m. Public transit is a joke. MARTA covers 4 rail lines in a metro area of 6 million people. Most suburbs rejected rail expansion because they didn't want those people visiting. Now everyone sits in traffic together anyway. The Beltline promised to transform Atlanta's walkability, but became a gentrification highway that priced out the neighborhoods it runs through. Property values along the Beltline increased 50%, while actual transit connections never materialized. Midtown to the airport is 10 miles and requires a car because MARTA stops running to half the city after 9 p.m. They're building a $1 billion Mercedes-Benz stadium while sidewalks crumble and bus routes get cut. Summer temperatures hit 95 degrees Fahrenheit with 80% humidity, yet they designed everything around walking through surface parking lots. The city has more highway lanes than sense. Atlanta didn't need urban renewal, it needed urban planning. What they got was urban removal. Miami. Miami is sinking, flooding, and running out of fresh water, but sure, let's keep building luxury condos on reclaimed swampland. This is a city in active climate crisis denial with a side of traffic nightmare. Sea levels are rising 3 millimeters annually, yet developers keep building on barrier islands like Brickell that flood during regular high tides. King tides turn streets into rivers, and the city's solution is raising roads while leaving buildings at sea level. Genius! The entire metropolitan area is built on porous limestone, so seawalls don't work. Water just seeps up through the ground. Downtown Miami looks futuristic until you realize there's no sidewalk network, and crossing Biscayne Boulevard is attempted suicide. The city is 56 square miles, but feels like 200 because everything is spread out with highways in between. I-95 cuts straight through Overtown, destroying what was once the Harlem of the South. They displaced 10,000 mostly black residents for a highway that created permanent traffic jams. Public transit is 2 rail lines and buses that stop running when you need them.
Getting from Miami Beach to the airport requires either sitting in traffic on 195 or taking an hour-long train-bus combination. They built an elevated people mover that goes in a 2-mile loop downtown. That's not transit, that's a tourist attraction. Housing costs have tripled while wages stayed flat, pushing workers 2 hours into the suburbs. The Everglades are drying up, fresh water is running out, but new developments still require grass lawns. They're building for a future that won't exist. Miami doesn't need a redesign, it needs an evacuation plan.
Detroit. Detroit built infrastructure for 2 million people, then 1.2 million left, and now the city is a museum of urban decay with a side of abandoned highways. This is what happens when your entire economy depends on one industry that collapses. The city has 139 square miles of land for 670,000 people. That's less dense than some suburbs. Entire neighborhoods are just vacant lots with one occupied house per block. The city's solution? Mow the empty lots and call it urban farming. I-375 demolished Black Bottom, one of the most vibrant black neighborhoods in America, for a highway that's 3/4 of a mile long. It doesn't connect to anything. It just destroyed a community and stopped. Paradise Valley, the historic jazz district, was erased for a highway stub. Now they're finally admitting it was a mistake 60 years later. The People Mover is an elevated train that goes in a circle downtown where nobody lives. It cost $200 million and serves 5,000 daily riders. That's $40,000 per rider. The Q-Line streetcar runs 3.3 miles on Woodward and gets stuck in traffic like a bus, but cost $180 million. Public transit to the suburbs doesn't exist because the suburbs refuse to join the regional system. Want to get from Detroit to Dearborn without a car? Good luck. The city demolished beautiful Beaux Arts train stations for parking lots, then wonders why downtown died. They're finally building some infill, but most investment goes to downtown while neighborhoods get nothing. 8 Mile Road is a literal dividing line between investment and abandonment. Detroit didn't fail because of cars, it failed because it planned for nothing else.
Las Vegas. Las Vegas exists in a desert that gets 4 inches of rain annually, yet the city uses 219 gallons of water per person daily and keeps building fountains. This is urban planning as a magic trick. Distract people with lights while ignoring the fact the city is running out of water. Lake Mead is at 27% capacity, and the city's response is building another mega resort with a lagoon. The Bellagio fountains use 22 million gallons in a region experiencing a historic drought. The Strip looks impressive until you try walking it in 115-degree heat between casinos spaced a 1/4 mile apart. Everything is designed to trap you inside casinos, not create a functioning city. Residential Vegas is suburban sprawl hell, spreading into the desert in every direction. Summerlin is 30 miles from the Strip, with one road connecting it. The entire valley is a bowl surrounded by mountains, trapping smog and heat. Public transit is buses that run on hour-long schedules and a monorail that only serves the Strip. Getting from Henderson to North Las Vegas without a car takes 2 hours. The city has 2.2 million people and exactly 0 rail lines to residential areas. They're building subdivisions in Pahrump 60 miles away because Vegas housing costs tripled. The city depends on the Colorado River, which is drying up, but keeps approving developments with pools and grass. Downtown tried to revive with the Fremont Street experience, an LED ceiling that somehow made the area worse. It's now a drunk tourist obstacle course. The city's solution to heat is air conditioning everything, using enough electricity to power a small country. Las Vegas doesn't need a redesign, it needs to stop existing. You can't plan your way out of building a city in an uninhabitable desert. That's not optimism, that's delusion. Dallas. Dallas is Houston with worse traffic and the same contempt for pedestrians. The entire city is a collection of highway interchanges pretending to be neighborhoods. Downtown has skyscrapers but no residents because everyone lives in suburbs 40 miles away. The High-5 interchange is 5 levels of highways stacked on top of each other like a concrete wedding cake. It costs $260 million and serves as a monument to car dependency. The city sprawls across 385 square miles with a population density lower than most beach towns. DART Rail exists, but only connects suburban park and rides to downtown, which empties at 6 p.m. Want to go east-west? Drive. The Trinity River Parkway project spent decades debating a highway through a floodplain instead of, not building in a floodplain. Uptown and Deep Ellum are walkable for exactly 6 blocks. Then you hit a 12-lane Strode. McKinney Avenue has a vintage streetcar that runs 1 mile as a tourist attraction while actual transit gets defunded. The city has more parking spaces than residents. Surface lots outnumber buildings downtown. They demolished historic buildings for parking, then subsidized suburban sprawl. Plano and Frisco are 35 miles from Dallas, but considered part of the metro because the sprawl is continuous. Your commute from Frisco to Dallas is 90 minutes on the tollway, which costs $15 daily. The city charges you for the privilege of sitting in traffic. Summer temperatures hit 105 degrees Fahrenheit, yet they designed everything around outdoor parking lot walks. Dallas doesn't have neighborhoods, it has highway exits with shopping centers. The city is so car-dependent that having a DUI is an economic death sentence. That's not urban planning, that's vehicular hostage-taking.
Jacksonville, America's largest city by land area at 875 square miles, which sounds impressive until you realize it's just swamp and sprawl with a downtown nobody visits. The city consolidated with Duval County in 1968, annexing everything in sight, creating a bloated metropolis with no center. Population density is 1,200 people per square mile. That's rural. Most of Europe's villages are denser. The city has 900,000 people spread across an area that should hold 5 million. Every trip requires a car because destinations are 20 miles apart. Public transit is buses that run once per hour if they show up. The Skyway is an elevated people mover that serves 8 stations downtown where 5,000 people live. It cost $150 million and serves fewer riders than a single bus route. Downtown is dead after 5 p.m. because everyone commutes from the beaches or South Side. The St. Johns River divides the city, and crossing it means sitting on I-95 or the Main Street Bridge, both parking lots. They built suburbs without sidewalks because everyone drives. Neighborhoods like Durbin Park are 30 miles from downtown with 0 transit connections. The city's solution to sprawl is annexing more land. Jacksonville Beach is technically part of Jacksonville, but feels like a different state. Getting there without a car takes 2 hours and 3 buses. The city spends millions maintaining infrastructure for empty land while schools crumble. They demolished La Villa, the Harlem of the South, for public housing, then demolished the public housing for nothing. Now it's just vacant lots. Jacksonville proves that bigger isn't better. It's just more expensive to maintain. The city doesn't need a redesign, it needs to de-annex and build actual density.
Memphis. Memphis has more Strodes than streets, more sprawl than sense, and urban planning that's been on autopilot since 1985. Strodes, those awful highway-street hybrids, dominate the city. Poplar Avenue is 7 lanes of 45-mile-per-hour traffic with strip malls and 0 pedestrian infrastructure. Crossing it is a death wish. The city demolished thriving black neighborhoods for I-40, which cuts downtown off from the riverfront. The highway literally runs between the city and the Mississippi River. You can't see the river from downtown without crossing a highway. Brilliant. Beale Street is 3 blocks of tourist traps surrounded by vacant buildings and parking lots. The city's entire tourism strategy is we have BBQ and Elvis, while actual residents suffer through car-dependent sprawl. Public transit is buses that stop running at 7 p.m. in most areas. MATA serves 200,000 daily riders with 1970s infrastructure and constant service cuts. The trolley system runs on Main Street for tourists while neighborhoods get nothing. East Memphis sprawls endlessly with shopping centers and subdivisions all requiring cars. Germantown and Collierville are 20 miles out but considered part of Memphis because sprawl is continuous. Downtown has a minor league baseball stadium and FedEx Forum, both surrounded by parking craters. The Pyramid, once a basketball arena, is now a Bass Pro Shop. That's not adaptive use, that's giving up. The city has 324 square miles of land for 633,000 people. Density is a foreign concept. Poverty is moving to the suburbs as inner-city neighborhoods gentrify, but there's no transit to connect suburban poor to jobs. Memphis doesn't need small fixes, it needs to demolish the stroads and start over.